I was 25 when I decided to take a solo road trip through Arizona. I had just quit a demanding job, burned out and exhausted, and needed space to clear my head. The open desert roads always held a strange comfort for me. Quiet, vast, and untouched. I had no fixed destination, just a general direction, and enough supplies for the week. By the third day, I had driven for hours without seeing much, just barren land, telephone poles, and the endless stretch of two-lane highway. Around noon, my gas light came on. I wasn't worried at first, but as the miles passed with no signs of civilization, I started getting uneasy. My phone had lost signal long ago. Then I saw it, an old gas station sitting alone on the side of the road. It looked like it had been forgotten by time. The sign was rusted, the paint peeling off in strips. One of the gas pumps was missing entirely. I pulled in anyway. The place was silent. There were no other cars, no movement. The windows of the main building were so grimy I couldn't see inside. As I stepped out of my car, I noticed a man standing in the shadow of the station's doorway. He wasn't doing anything, just standing there watching. He didn't approach, didn't speak. There was something off about how still he was, but I tried to ignore the feeling crawling up my spine. I filled the tank quickly and glanced around. No pay machine, no signs of life. I planned to leave immediately, but as I got back into my car, I noticed him pointing across the road. Across from the station was a narrow dirt path, barely visible, mostly covered in dry brush. There was an old wooden fence, broken in parts, and a hand-painted sign hanging crookedly, but the words were too faded to read. For a reason I still can't explain, I turned down that path. The road was rough, the kind that rattled your bones. It wound through low hills and sharp desert rock formations. At first, the scenery distracted me. It was oddly beautiful, quiet, and vast. But after a while, I realized the road wasn't looping back to the highway. It was going deeper into nowhere. Then I saw it, an old pickup truck, sun-bleached and half buried in the sand. Its windows were smashed and its tires were long gone. What truly froze me, though, was the figure standing next to it. It was the same man from the gas station. I didn't understand. I hadn't seen another turnoff, hadn't passed any cars. There was no way he could have gotten ahead of me. He just stood there, facing the road as I passed by, unmoving. My stomach dropped. Every part of me screamed to turn around, but the road was too narrow. I kept going, heart racing. The road eventually curved up toward a ridge. When I reached the top, I realized the road didn't continue. It ended abruptly, like it had been erased. Beyond it was a sharp drop and miles of barren desert. I slammed the brakes, dust rising all around me. My hands were trembling. I put the car in reverse and backed up the hill, hoping I could retrace my way out. But as I came around the bend, he was there again, this time standing in the middle of the path. There was no sign of a vehicle, no sound of footsteps, just him. He looked different now. His clothes were torn, stained. There was something metallic in his hand, and though I couldn't see his face clearly, I could feel him staring straight through the windshield. I didn't wait. I jerked the wheel and drove off the road, plowing through dead brush and dry sand, not caring where it led as long as it wasn't toward him. The drive back felt endless. Somehow, after nearly an hour of erratic turns and rocky terrain, I reached the main road again. I flagged down a passing RV. They helped me get back to a small town nearby. When I mentioned the gas station to someone at the diner, they went silent. Then, with a careful voice, they told me the station had burned down years ago. A man had died in the fire. People say he was a drifter who lived behind the building and sometimes scared travelers. Nobody rebuilt the place. It had been abandoned ever since. I went back through that stretch of highway the next morning. There was no gas station. Just dirt, broken fence posts, and empty space where I swore it stood. That road taught me something I'll never forget. Out there where no one can hear you, sometimes things find you. Things that don't belong in the world we know, and sometimes they wait for people like me. I never took another solo road trip again. I was 28 when I took the overnight shift at a quiet diner on the outskirts of a small coastal town in Oregon. The place sat just off a winding road that followed the cliffs, mostly forgotten by tourists. Our customers were drifters, night fishermen, and locals avoiding home. The kind of place where fog rolled in like a blanket and silence wrapped around you tight. It was peaceful until he started coming in. He showed up every Thursday, same time, 3:17 a.m. exactly. I remember the number because I checked the clock every single time, curious how someone could be that precise without ever looking at a watch. He always wore the same worn-out gray jacket, sea-stained boots, and never carried anything. His hair was messy, face unshaved, and his eyes hollow. Not tired, not sad, just vacant, like he was there but already gone. He never ordered more than toast and black coffee, never spoke a word, left a $5 bill folded into a perfect square every time, in and out, no eye contact, no sound, a ghost with a routine. Then, one stormy Thursday in December, everything changed. That night, he walked in like always, but instead of heading to his usual booth by the window, he froze just inside the door, stood still, silent. The fog outside clung to the glass like fingerprints. After almost a full minute, he walked straight past the booths and into the bathroom. He stayed there for 23 minutes. I counted. I was about to check on him when the door creaked open. He walked out slowly but didn't leave. Instead, he wandered to the far end of the diner and sat on the floor. Just sat there, knees pulled up, eyes locked on the tiled floor, staring at nothing, like he dropped into a different world. The room was silent, but it felt heavy, like something terrible had entered behind him, unseen. After 10 minutes, he stood up without a word and walked out into the fog. No car, no sound, just vanished. The next Thursday, nothing. The one after that, still nothing. 3 weeks passed, and I figured I'd seen the last of him. But on the 4th week, he returned. Just after 3 a.m., a black sedan pulled into the lot. No headlights. It parked facing the cliffs. I was wiping down the counter when the man stepped out. He looked different. No jacket, hair trimmed, clothes clean like he'd just come from church or court. But his eyes were still wrong, still empty, like the soul had been vacuumed out of him, like someone had dressed up a hollow shell. He walked in, scanned the diner like it was foreign to him, then quietly approached the counter and placed a sealed envelope on it. No words, no name, no markings, just the heavy thump of paper and silence. I asked if he was okay. He didn't reply, just turned, walked out, and got back into the waiting car. Inside the envelope was an old black and white photo. It showed 4 people in front of a charred, burnt-down house. A woman, 2 kids, and him, only younger. Eyes brighter, life behind them. The house behind them was barely standing, just scorched bones. On the back of the photo, July 5th, 1997. Nothing else. I contacted the county sheriff. They ran it through records. No house fire ever reported. No missing persons to match the photo. No family. It was like the entire image had been plucked out of a memory no one remembered having. Even the diner's security footage that night. Glitched. Static. All you could see were brief flickers, headlights in the fog, and then nothing. I still have the envelope. It sits in the drawer under my bed. Some nights, when the sea wind rattles the windows and fog rolls thick across the road, I think about him, about that look on his face, about whatever happened during those weeks he disappeared. Once, not long ago, I took a walk along the cliffs after my shift. I looked out over the dark ocean and saw a black sedan parked down the road, headlights off, engine humming, and in the back seat I swear I saw him, sitting still, watching, not looking at me, looking through me. Whatever found him, whatever changed him, it didn't leave. I was 26 when I moved into a cramped duplex in a quiet suburban street on the edge of Adelaide. It wasn't much, faded carpet, yellowing walls, but it was cheap, and I didn't mind the isolation. Most of the houses nearby were old and well kept, with hedges trimmed into careful shapes and mailboxes shining in the sun. My next-door neighbor was a man I saw only in glimpses. He was older, maybe late 40s, with sun-leathered skin and stringy hair he always wore tucked under a cap. He worked odd hours. Sometimes I'd hear his ute rattling off before dawn or see it pulling in at midnight, headlights sweeping over my lounge room wall through the thin curtains. One evening in early winter, the air turned sharp and cold. I got home late, my breath misting as I fumbled with my keys. The street was hushed, the only sound the wind shivering through the eucalyptus trees. Inside, I made tea and sat by the front window. Across the narrow driveway, I noticed my neighbor's front door was slightly open. Pale light pooled onto the concrete step. It stayed open for hours. Eventually, I turned off my lamp so I could see better into the dark. The door never shut. No one came or went. Later that night, I woke to a noise in the wall, a slow, deliberate scraping that seemed to move along the plaster, as though fingernails dragged from one end of the bedroom to the other. I lay rigid, eyes locked on the black ceiling, listening. It stopped. I didn't sleep after that. The next morning, I left for work and noticed the door next door was closed again, but muddy prints tracked from the step to the shared driveway. They looked wrong. Bare feet. That night, I turned every lock in my place. I made sure every window was latched. I tried to read, but the silence felt pressed in around me. After midnight, the noise came again, this time from the floor. A soft, steady tapping under the boards, moving from the kitchen toward the bedroom. I held my breath so long my lungs burned. It stopped when I stood. I didn't know what to do. I didn't dare leave. I sat in the dark until dawn. By the weekend, I convinced myself I was imagining things. But then I smelled it. A sickly sweet, rotting stench that drifted in through the gap under the shared wall, so strong it made my eyes water. I covered my mouth and listened. From the other side of the wall came a low, wet cough. I moved out 2 days later. A week after I left, I heard from the property manager. Police had broken in next door after neighbors complained of smell and flies at the windows. They found him inside, sprawled on the floor, long dead. But the footprints in the filth tracked through the entire unit, pressed into the walls and smeared on the ceiling. No one could explain them.